Imagine all your audio entertainment available in just one place. That's what the Audible app is all about. With Audible, you can always find the best of what you love or discover something new. Audible has an incredible selection of wellness titles and originals, like The Light Podcast by Michelle Obama, Work It Out by Mel Robbins, and Confidence Gap by Russ Harris. Membership includes access to Audible originals, podcasts, and tons of audiobooks that you can download or stream as much as you want. And as an Audible member, you can choose one title per month from an ever-growing catalog of titles to keep. The Audible app makes it easy to listen anytime, anywhere, whether you're traveling, working out, doing chores, wherever your day takes you. New members can try Audible now free for 30 days. Visit audible.com/motivation or text motivation to 500-500. That's audible.com/motivation or text motivation to 500-500 to try Audible free for 30 days.
The weather is cooling down a bit. The leaves are starting to fall. Yes, it's that time of year again. Football season. And we all know the best part of any game day traditions are the ones that involve food. There's nothing like having everyone in your game day crew coming together to bring their best bites and argue over whose family makes the best chili. And while there's no need to mess with the perfection of game day classics, like a freshly grilled Oscar Mayer hot dog topped with Heinz ketchup and mustard, it's always fun to step out of your comfort zone and get creative with your recipes. Because there's nothing more fun than adding to your list of game day traditions, like making a creamy and delectable queso dip with Velveeta cheese that can be eaten with so much more than just chips. Now is the chance for people across the nation to find out whose game day eats reign supreme. It's your turn to show off your tasty game day food traditions. Go to www.gamedayfoodtraditions.com to share a photo of your game day food tradition to enter to win $10,000. Once again, that's www.gamedayfoodtraditions.com to enter to win $10,000.
This is Full Change with Tom Laidlaw.
We have a Stanley Cup winner on the pod.
Mark Messier?
It's not Mark Messier, but it's someone who fought probably a lot more than Mark Messier.
Yeah, okay. I like that.
Mike Hartman.
Wow, cool, very cool. Brother, how are you doing?
Great. How about you, Tom?
Good. So Mike and I never played with each other. We played against each other. You started in 87, right? And I was out in L.A. at that time. But we've done a lot of things with the Ranger alumni. Mike was part of your 94 winning Cup team. So you and I hit it off, I guess, kind of in the same business, right? Doing that motivational stuff and everything, too. So good to see you.
Yeah, great to see you, too. Yeah.
Good deal. Where are you living now?
Well, I was in Hoboken for like the 3 years when I was seeing you a lot. But now I moved back to my home in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay, good. And what is your hometown, though? Where are you from?
From Michigan. I'm from a little town called Oak Park, Michigan, which if you've seen the movie 8 Mile, my grandmother lived like right close to where that movie was filmed.
Oh, that's cool. Very cool. You still have family back there now?
Yeah, I still have family back in Detroit. I go back. I haven't been back in a while, but I still have family and friends there. And I need to get back there more, actually.
That's cool. So you grew up playing hockey in Oak Park in that whole area there?
Yeah, I grew up, it's a real blue collar area, and I lived there till I was about 15. Then the highway department took our home, and I ended up moving to a city called West Bloomfield, which was about a half hour away. But so I lived there, played house league hockey for the Oak Park Rangers was my first team.
Oh, very cool.
And then played for the Oak Park Islanders, and I wore number 9 when I was 9 years old, which was Clark Gillies then. He ended up being my roommate.
Who you idolized? Was it Clark Gillies?
Yeah, Clark was one of my favorite players, and I played with both of them.
Gillies, we had him on one of our shows. He actually I knew him a little bit from charity events and everything, but he contacted us, wanted to come on the show. He's like a little kid. I mean that in a very good way. He was just excited to get on the show. So we got to be friends with him before he passed away. He was really a classy guy. So
my roommate, and I played on his line, and I called him Mr. Gillies, actually.
And this was up in Buffalo?
Yeah, I was 19 years old, and I'm playing with Clark Gillies, and we're playing in Montreal, and we roomed together.
Wow.
And his Stanley Cup would always sit in the bathroom on the ledge, his Stanley Cup ring with the Islanders one of the years he won. I never wanted to touch it. Just dumped it down the toilet by accident. The funny thing was realistically, I don't even hide this. I was just happy to be up there. I mean, I was a 7th round draft pick and playing for Scotty Bowman and ended up making the team that year. So I'm talking to Clark, and I said, Clark, you were one of my heroes growing up. He goes, listen, all I know is I'm going to bed. We could talk about it in the morning. in your sleep, because if you wake me up, I'll have to kill you.
Did he really say that?
Well, I talk in my sleep. He knew I did because he heard.
Oh, that's funny. He was good, man. He was funny.
Oh, he was great.
So, Mike, you said you got drafted. How was that experience for you? How was that day?
Well, it's interesting the way it worked. So back then, I had offers to play college hockey. My grades were pretty good. My dad.
Unlike Tom's.
Yeah.
Well, no, I told her I was in the top 3 of my class, A, B, C student every year. If I got the 2.0, you could play for Michigan State or Northern. Well, but
there you go.
Well, but I had decent grades, and I was going to play for Michigan State for Sean Walsh. He was the assistant coach. He recruited me. And then, like I said, I moved to West Bloomfield when I was 15, played 1 year for Little Caesars, and then moved to Toronto and played Tier 2 for North York Rangers, which was a Tier 2 via a friend of mine, Steve Conroy. I don't know if you remember Steve.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So Steve knew Gus Badali. Gus said, well, I'm not going to take you on as a client, but I'll help you get to North York. So I get to North York and ended up leading that team in penalty minutes and scored a bunch of goals. I was 16 playing with 20-year-olds. And
wow.
Gus said, well, you need to play in the OHL. And I gave up my college eligibility and did not get drafted. Everything fell apart. Everything, just didn't work out. I had a really bad year in Belleville. It's the Belleville rink is Olympic size. So everything, the way I played my game was against, it was just not working for me. So I didn't get drafted. I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. And I was ready to quit. And I went to the draft and I saw Ken Holland, and he says, you might as well go back to school. I don't think you could play. But then I ran into Jimmy Devellano, and he says, hey, I'm going to call you Monday. Will you come and meet? I saw him at the draft. Will you come down and have lunch with me? And I said, yeah, right. He's going to call. Well, he did. So he called me, and I went down to Joe Louis Arena, and I met with Jimmy Devellano, the nicest guy.
Yeah.
And I was actually just talking to him. He goes, you know why I brought you here today? I said, yeah, to give me a tryout. He goes, no, quite the opposite. He said, we're not allowed to because you're in a development league, but when you're 20, I can. But here's the deal I'm going to make with you. He says, you're not the biggest guy. You're not the fastest guy. He goes, you kill penalties, but you don't do anything well. You go out of your way to make hits, and you're going out of your way to fight guys, and you're not going to beat guys up like that. But if you play a certain style without getting into it, I'm going to write down this whole plan for you, including the training program. If you follow my plan, I'm going to give you a tryout at 20 years old and bring you in because you're a nice boy. That's how he said it.
How's your confidence level at this point?
I was feeling great after knocking. Right away, I went home. I ran 5 miles. I started training. I started doing things back in those days, like working on balance beams and different things like that. To make a long story short, boxing. And I got a little bit bigger and stronger, and got traded out of Belleville right away to North Bay to play for Bert Templeton, who was my favorite.
Yeah.
Made the World Junior team that year. Got drafted by the Sabres after playing that year, and it's all about timing and where you go.
Yeah, really. So did you follow Jimmy Devellano's plan pretty good?
I did. I followed it to a point where he called me and he goes, I'm proud of you. And I go, what? He called me. And I said, I called him back. He left me a message on, we didn't have cell phones on my mother's answering machine. He goes, somebody called named Jimmy, said he's proud of you. He goes, Mike, this is Jimmy Devellano. I'm very proud of you. Nick Polano was driving down Orchard Lake Road. That's where I lived. And he saw you running in the 100-degree heat. So I started. So that was good timing too. So, and I called him, I said, thanks, Mr. Devellano. He goes, well, just keep it up, like a 2-second conversation. So it was very nice of him that he laid out this foundation for me to help me. Like, it was something I'll never forget.
It's amazing. Right? I know you do all this motivational work now. There you are in that situation, ready to really give up. And then somebody else came along to motivate you and show you a path to get that done. Right. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, my father grew up pretty blue collar in Oak Park. My father says, you never quit. I was ready to quit, actually, after the first year of junior. You don't get drafted. Your chances are getting slimmer, and you need hope sometimes. And I almost did. I almost felt like quitting.
Yeah. You know what I mean? This is a compliment to you, too. You're not a big guy, but I remember you as a guy, and you're talking about it now. You would just fight anybody. Like you would do whatever you had to do to play in the National
I
Hockey
don't know if that's smart.
League. Well, but back then if you wanted to play in the National Hockey League, that's what you had to do, right? So you were willing to do it.
So
Well, I figured if I was going to I like to hit. The physical part was more than just fighting. I mean, I wasn't, I try to fight smart, I remember you might have played in LA that time. I was walking down the corridor there, and it was later, and I saw Jay Miller and Marty McSorley. And I knew Marty because he played in Belleville, but he didn't really know him, but he would still rip your head off. And Jay Miller, I would fight him a lot in Buffalo, Boston.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I'm walking down the corridor, and he said to me, I said, "Hey, good morning, Jay." And I said, "Hey, Marty." And I'm not going to tell you what Jay said because I don't know other things, but he said, "Hey, F off." I said, "Oh, great." And I guess, well, I keep walking, and he yells at me in the LA Forum, Mike. And I turn around. I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Are you going to hold on tonight, or are you going to fight like a man?" I said, "I'm going to hold on." He goes, "That's what I thought."
So, Mike, you get the call up in '87. You're 20 years old. How was that? You remember your first game? Remember where you were when you got called?
Yeah. Out of training camp in 1980, in 86, 87. And then I got sent back to junior, then to the World Junior team, and then got called up for 3 games. But the first game I played was an exhibition game because our real big tough guy got hurt. Andy Risto and Wayne Van Dorp, they were bringing 2 big monsters in.
Yeah.
And they were hurt. So I had a pretty good training camp, running around, hitting, doing what I could do. And I ended up, to a point where Scotty told me I'm playing opening night against Washington. And I scored. I got in a fight with Fran Jennings. Another exhibition, then another. And then we were playing in Rochester against the Flyers next to Lindy Ruff in the dressing room. And Scotty says, "I'm posting the lineup for Rochester again. We're playing the Philly tomorrow." And I rush over there. He goes, and Lindy says, "Are you excited?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Don't look, you're on the roster." I said, "Well, let me just look." I go and look. I come back all excited. And Lindy says, "Why are you excited?" I said, "Oh, I get to play tomorrow." He goes, "Well, talk to me after the game. They're probably going to dress about 12 or 13 guys." That's how I did it. And I went there and I did what I had to do and ended up making the team. And I sat out the first 3 games and played my first game against Montreal Canadiens at home. It was great. It was just a great experience. It was not real for me. I had to pinch myself.
Yeah, I know. It is that's the thing. You look back at that first game and you say to yourself, "I can't believe I'm really doing this," right? And you've dreamed all your life of getting there, so that's cool. Was Larry Playfair still there, or was he gone?
Yeah, no. I actually, Larry is one of my favorites.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
I had him in LA for a while. Great guy. Yeah.
Yeah. He was there with me, and we still talk to this day.
Oh, cool. In the locker room, you a guy like really intense before the games? You're joking around. What were you?
No, not joking. In fact, I never said anything.
No, though. You got a really big mouth now. You're talking all the time now.
My girlfriend, that's what she says. She says, "How long's the podcast?" I said, "An hour." She goes, "Well, you don't shut up. They'll probably."
I'll ask you one question and you go for an hour.
Mike, you had a lot of bruisers on that Sabres team in the late 80s, early 90s, right?
Yeah. We had a physical team. We had Jeff Parker, pretty tough guy, and Kevin McGuire. I was a middleweight guy, and big team. Like people said, we're the guys big back then, but we had Huey Krupp at 6'6", and Adam Creighton at 6'6", and Jim Korn at 6'5". The big guys.
Do you think the players are bigger now? Like people say that. I don't think so. I think the players are the same size as they were back then, right?
But you had some big guys. Like, back, I think, when was that? Like 2008 and 9 when they brought in a lot of big, tough guys.
Wait, but you racked up 316 penalty minutes in 89?
Yeah. Try to play hard, but I didn't try to take dumb penalties. I knew if I had to fight some big guys anyway, so why not play? You're not going to run Wayne Gretzky. I wanted to play physical and hard, and then if somebody wanted to do something, I was there to try to do what I could and try to fight smart.
Did you have a guy that you had a rivalry with that you were always throwing with?
And I fought all the time.
He was tough to do too.
Yeah, and Shane Churla as well.
Shane Churla story when he was in Calgary, I believe that's where he started. And I ended up with Colin Patterson. Remember him, Colin Patterson? Yeah. So I had him down. I was on top of him. And Churla got loose. And now he's grabbing me from behind. He's going, "You're my guy. You're my guy." Like yelling at me. Like he wants me to get up and fight him. I said, "No, I've got my guy. I've got my guy." And Colin Patterson was down below and just dying laughing too, because I was holding on for dear life. It was just so on Colin Patterson.
I was playing in the first year I was playing in Buffalo, and then the second year I got sent down, and in Shane Churla that year, or just that year when actually I was up in Buffalo, he went on the stage in Rochester and beat up half of the Rochester Amerks. It was a big thing about him. He ended and he built up a little reputation. So Binghamton, he was playing for the Binghamton Whalers back then. And I get there and he lines up next to me and good fight.
Yeah.
I realized who he was. If I probably realized, I maybe would have held on more. Yeah. So then I'm in the penalty box and all I could see is he's putting Vaseline on. He's going like this. We're going again. Okay, now he's not like yelling. He's looking straight ahead. He had that crazy look in his face. Yeah. And out there and I charge at him and he slips and I hit him again. Got like 4 minutes and he goes, now I'm going to kill you. When he won the third time and I felt pretty good. And Joe Crozier says, do you know who you just fought? I said, well, Churla. He goes, well, I'm going to make a call in the Buffalo. I got called up just after that.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
I was in Baltimore, going to Baltimore. I got called up and that was it. But anyways, that's the same. But then we got to the NHL. He was,
Yeah. He was a tough dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you were up in the NHL, then you felt like, okay, I need to fight to stay here in the National Hockey League?
About fighting. I believe that Buffalo was a small building and I knew I had to finish my check hard, get the puck in deep, make smart plays, play good defensively. And if anyone does anything to one of our players, I'm going to be there to do what I could do or let them come to me. So I said I had to do it. And it was just part of what I was playing. I wasn't that guy that they're going to send out there to fight Dave Brown. I mean, that's not a fair matchup, really. Yeah. So it was more of just trying to add energy to the team. And
crap you ever had?
I fought Lyndon Byers, like I said, maybe 8 or 9 times. I try to fight smart, and I'm glad I did fight as smart as I could fight. I mean, you can't punch for punch with Marty McSorley. Do whatever you can and get the advantage. And I try to fight on my terms. If I'm not going to fight somebody at the end of my shift, who could last a long time. I said, I'm going to fight or John Kordick. Guys, I was trying to be. Next thing you know, when you look at have 200 plus minutes, and then now they start looking for you.
Yeah, isn't it funny too? Like you back then in those days in the 80s, you look at every roster. There's 2 or 3 guys on every team, right? That you're going to fight, and guys that were good fighters and tough guys too, right? Wow, like that's what I say when I got in the agent business. I just left LA and had Warren Reichel as a client, and he'd bang around the minors. And I just got him as a client. I said, listen, I hate to say this to you because I hate the job myself. I didn't do it to that level. But I said, if you're going to play in the National Hockey League, you're going to have to fight everybody. And to his credit, like you, he went out and did that and made himself a National Hockey League career. But that's a tough job. Well,
little do you know, is Warren lived at my house in the suburbs in Detroit.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. When he was playing junior and I was playing, there was his buddy was Brad Belland.
Yeah.
And there was the 3 of us, and Brad got drafted, and Warren and I would train and run, box, skate.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Go out.
Bundy had fun, yeah. Bundy thought he was John Travolta back then. That's who he thought he looked like.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, he was training hard with me, and I think that was the year he was the first guy to have 30 goals in 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And we just hit it off as really good friends back then. And then he started bringing me over because we're going to skate in Windsor. So, I mean, what a talented skate that was. They had, Probert, Domi, Featherstone, Gravy. You should have seen the guys, Jovanowski. You should have seen the guys they had.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
Warren was a good friend of mine.
That's good, too. What's he doing? He's scouting with somebody now, too, I think, right?
Edmonton.
So how many total years did you get in the NHL then?
9.
9 years? That's a good career.
I mean, like a couple of years, I played 17 games, so I don't know if you count that. And that's
true.
I played, but if you look at years played, like really 7, and then parts of other seasons.
So how long were you in Buffalo then?
Years, so 3 full years and 2 parts of 2 years. Like when I went back to junior and played on the World Junior team.
Doing World Junior that when you played?
We had a good team. We had Leach and Scotty Young and Orkram. We had a good team, but overall, I mean, Canada was packed with Shanahan. They were just packed with players.
Yeah. So where did you go right from Buffalo to the Rangers? Did you go someplace else?
No, I played in Buffalo.
Yeah.
And then I got traded to Winnipeg with a guy you probably played with, Dean Kennedy.
Oh, that's right. Yes, he's my partner. Yeah. Roommate partner. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, I became really close with Dino, actually.
He's a good man. I'll tell you, that's an honest man there.
Yeah, I could tell you a 2-second story about him. And then I was picked up in the expansion draft pretty high, like the third pick in the expansion draft. And then I got traded to the Rangers, and pretty much Neil said, who I really like Neil and respect him. Neil Smith, because you're going to be an insurance policy here. And I said, it's not what I wanted to hear, but that's what it was. But
could be honest, like the NHL isn't all, and not that people lie all the time, they just don't tell you the reality of what's going on. So I kind of admire that he tells you the truth, right? Even if you don't want to hear it.
30-second story, Dean, I got traded with him from Buffalo to Winnipeg. So Jerry Meehan calls me in, and I'm the young guy. Hey, thank you very much. You gave me a great opportunity, and yada, yada. So Dean Kennedy walks in and says, hey, Dino. He goes, hey, don't give me the crap. What time am I leaving? Where am I going? And thank you, Jerry. It's business, and left. And then I got on the plane with him, and I said, man, I can't believe you did that. He says, why? Be yourself, Hardy. So I ended up becoming friends with him and signing with the Salsa because of Dean. And the funny thing with Dean, he said to me, he says, Hardy, I'm only playing 10 years. I go, what do you mean? He goes, I can score 20 goals, which I know I won't. A team can give me $1 million back then, and I know they won't, but you know what? I promised Dad that I'm going to work on the farm.
Yeah.
And he did. So he played 10 years to his word and ended in Edmonton, and he ended up working on the farm. So we talk about an honest guy.
He was my roommate, and I have so much respect for him because he was exactly like that. He told you he was going to do something just like that story. He was going to do it. There's no question. He's a tough guy too. Like, I'm surprised he moved around so much. I really liked him as a player. I think he was good. To the Rangers, what point of the season was it?
It was at the trade deadline.
Oh, okay.
And I was playing with Tampa, and I knew I was going to get traded because Terry Chris didn't say 2 words to me. The first thing he said to me is when I got to Tampa, he says, hey, you're not the guy I wanted. I wanted a bigger guy, but don't buy a place. Downline, they were trading everybody. We had an old team, so Rob Ramage, Basil McRae, everybody leaving. And he came to the back of the bus. We just landed at LaGuardia. They were going to go play the Devils. He said, hey, Hardy, how you doing? I said, I'm doing good. He says, how's everything? Your buddies are leaving. It's tough business. So I said, I'm done. And I did. I got traded at 3:00.
So when you get to the Rangers, I mean, you got some characters on that team. Like Mark Messier, Brian Leach, Mike Richter, Adam Graves, all those guys. It seemed like that was a really tight group of players too, right? That they really were they put together for a purpose and they wanted to win.
Well, in my lifetime, I always looked up to Mark Messier even before that. I played against him, but just the guys we had, we didn't have any selfish people, and those guys were true leaders. Made sure you were comfortable. I can't even say enough good things about the people that we had there, and they're the same people today.
Yeah.
Kevin Lowe, doing things like they had a list that who wanted to go on David Letterman. And I was late putting my name on there. And he goes, you want to go, Hardy? I'll take my name off. And just so many, the littlest things that you could do. And I remember no one's ever, this was kind of funny. I was playing pretty well. So between myself and Kiprios and Phil Bork, who barely played, we were sitting out a lot, Eddie Olchuk. And I was playing really well, hitting, playing physical. And Keenan sat me for 4 games. And we were in Florida. And Mess was having a big dinner for everybody. I said, Mess, can I come a little bit late for the dinner? I'm going to go see my mother. He goes, your mother's here? And I said, yeah, she lives in Florida now. And he goes, wait a sec. He ran him back to Keenan's office, told Keenan I was playing. Colin Campbell comes out and said, I guess you're playing tonight. You remember that stuff. Yeah, I remember the Stanley Cup, but I remember the good people that we surround ourselves with. I mean, that's beyond.
Good group of guys, yeah. So, okay, I don't know how much you want to talk about this, but I've heard a lot of stories. I never liked Mike Keenan. I never as a person. I just thought he was a total phony. I was trying out for the Canadian Olympic team, and he was trying out as well. And I barely remembered him. And then later on, when he was looking for a job in the NHL, he'd call me up pretending we were friends, from the Olympic team. And, but meantime, when he's coaching at Philly, you'd walk down the hallway, he wouldn't even acknowledge you, just walk right by you. And all this stuff, all the nonsense and everything. So I hear, and again, you touch on what I want to talk about, but I hear more that Mark Messier really took that team over in '94 and basically coached the team. Is that accurate?
Well, I don't, I look back on it, and he was our boss, any way you look at it. And there were a few of us that were, you call us support players, if you want to call us that. And, we weren't treated by him the way you want to be treated in life. Like, I believe that life's built on relationships. I believe in mindfulness. I believe in hugs. I believe in we're people. I don't care if you're a hockey player or you're working at a coffee house. And he was very, very difficult then, but I could say now he's different. And I don't mind him today, but playing for him back in those days, I don't know how many people, they work in corporate America, and you hear complaints today and you read the TV that would ever accept that type of maybe behavior is the right word, but because everybody knew he was tough, and there was a lot of.
But I know you're saying tough. You're trying to be diplomatic.
He was a dick.
Tough is one thing, but
he was a dick.
He's just a rude person. Yeah,
it wasn't. You listen, yeah. But I'd learned. You know what? I've had nice talks with him. He was really nice to my daughter, and I'm going to give a real kiss ass analogy. So Mike Keenan in the old days was very interesting, but today he's very interested. Like, he sat and talked to my daughter for 45 minutes about what she does in life. So. Do people deserve a second chance?
Yeah.
And so for me, I don't, like a lot of guys say, it was funny. We were on this big podcast with Glenn Healy, Chip Wills, and a bunch of us. And
I've heard those guys go at it before about this subject. Yeah.
Oh, but with Keenan on there. And they got to me, and I said, listen, Mike could have traded me at the end. So I have a Stanley Cup, and that's all I'm going to say. And Glenn Healy said, oh, quit kissing his ass. He's not going to put you on the power play. He's not going to play you tomorrow. You sound like that Donald Trump's press secretary. And I said, because there were a lot of callers on that show, like 1,000. How many? I don't know. Like, there was people saying this. Was he an animal? Was he a nasty guy? I said, no. He was just he wasn't very pleasant back then. But I like him today, surprisingly, to say that. So I don't say too many bad things about him.
I just never thought that stuff was necessary, but
it's not, and I love, like, when I, not reverse engineering this, but when I met you, I'm going to say, like, I went back and told people, hey, I really enjoyed, I talked to Todd Ellick, actually.
Oh,
and I said, Todd, I really enjoy, Tom Laidlaw. And I just liked you. We hit it off. Yep. We sat next to each other. We enjoyed each other, but you can't say that about Mike.
Yeah. Right.
So,
Todd Ellick, where'd you see him? Do you know him as well?
I played junior with him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I played with him in LA. Good guy, yeah.
Yeah. I played junior with Todd, and there's a guy that played college hockey in Canada and made it.
That's right. Yes, I forgot about that. Yeah. Yeah. So you won the cup here in New York. Where'd you go after that? Did you stay around New York after?
Well, the next year was the lockout year.
Oh, yeah.
And I sat out 17 games and played one against Pittsburgh. And I did something, I don't know if I look back on it, but the one thing you look back on, Rick Dudley called me and says, listen, you're not playing. There's teams that would want you. Would you come down here and play? And there's only like 6 games left in the season. And I asked Neil if he could loan me to Detroit. And guys thought it was the stupidest thing, but I wasn't going to play there.
Detroit in the IHL, correct?
Yeah, the IHL. Right.
Yep.
Well, I ended up going there. And then from there, tried out for the Red Wings, and then I knew Donnie Waddell very well. So Donnie said, come play in Orlando. And then I actually signed with Colorado, had a good year in Orlando, and played for Kirk Frazier, who's a great guy. Yeah. Kirk was great. He said, listen, there's teams that want you. Signed with Colorado, became the captain of Hershey, won the Calder Cup, tore my stomach out that year, had the stomach surgery, tried to play through it. And I realized I was done and quit. Moved to Charlotte, and there was a hockey team here, and they said, "Would you play part-time?" Which I probably should have quit. I played till I was 42 years old when they needed that league. With my last year was 2008. I played a game, but probably should have quit earlier.
Wow. So then once you're done playing, you jumped right into this business that you ultimately sold. Is that correct?
No, when I was done, I went back to school. It took me 10 years. I have a bachelor's in business. I went through Empire State College and a non-accredited school in California. It ended up being non-accredited, Kensington University. Got a bachelor's degree. And then I took my NASM, National Academy of Sports Medicine, and I ended up getting certified. And I owned a gym, learned coaching. I started learning that I didn't want to be someone that owned a gym. So I kept looking for something I liked, and I liked the coaching business, which was becoming more popular back then. And then studied this, learning how to read assessments. And that's how I got into the business back then. I ended up selling my gym for very little money just to get out of it, and started coaching and been doing that ever since.
When you say coaching, life coaching, correct?
Yeah, we call it life. I call it performance coaching. Yeah. And reading assessments. I was in the, you give somebody, and I love to give you one sometime.
Yeah.
I give them the businesses. Little Caesars was my first big account in Detroit, which of all,
sure.
And I worked with from like Quiznos to real estate companies to insurance companies, and then I started working individually, but doing a lot of assessing, reading these assessments, and it's really like gives people a baseline and a roadmap.
Yeah. Sure. You ever done any athletes?
The story I have is, and I would never say the names, but I got a call from one of the guys on the Boston Bruins, and the same guy that would swear at me and yell at me on the bench. He goes, "Hey, I hear you're doing coaching. I need some help." So I said, "Listen, I'm not even going to," and I knew financially he was struggling. I said, "I'm going to do it for free." So I helped him, and he really loved it. Then I got another Boston Bruin, then another one. And these three are the guys that I would, if you would have asked me in 1986, I'm going to be talking to these guys. And they were really appreciative. One of the guys that brought the guys was Randy Burridge.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So then next thing you know, one led to another. And I started working with some of these people, which led to more people.
Don't you find that with hockey players? I know what the other sports are like. Even if you never played the guy, even if you fought with them, against them, after the game's done, they're all buddies, right? It's like you've got that bond.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I didn't even want to charge these guys, and it was reward. You felt good about it.
Right. And you're still doing the coaching now, then, right?
Yeah, but remember, there's a difference between therapy and coaching. Like, right. I'm not a therapist. God forbid. I worked with a lot of dentists, and God forbid a dentist would say, "Hey, I'm not happy in my life." I'm going to say, I'm not the person for you. I help with mindfulness, measurable goals, all the things we learned as a hockey player. I try to apply it to the business world. And I use this assessment tool as a baseline, and help them through that. And
did you develop this assessment, or is
no, it's if you look him up, it was Robert S. Hartman. He was up for a Nobel Prize. No relation. People think,
yeah.
So I studied. I ended up paying $10,000 to get certified. Just do a little research on Robert S. Hartman. He has this like original Hartman value profile that businesses use. I ended up working for this Dr. David Medford from the University of Tennessee that says, "I'm going to take you under my wing. I'm going to teach you how to read these assessments." And it's been amazing. Like, it's been great.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Mike, you also wrote a book, right?
Yeah, the book is, it's a healthy mindset for athletes and workplace athletes on Amazon. It just teaches you to be in the moment, teaches you to, everything that Tom stands for. I know Tom very well. It's just the very basics. I'm just trying to get better, even if you get 1% better or 5% better. And that's what that's about.
It's amazing that you're the same way that I've gone on this journey the last 5 years. I felt like before, like I look back on it now, I says, what was I doing? It was almost like wasting my time and stuff. Like, I loved playing in the National Hockey League. It was fantastic, dream come true, everything. But I look back and I see myself now compared to what I was then. And I just, like, I love myself a lot more now than I did back then, right? Yeah.
And that's so true. Like, I'm not, like, I'm proud. I want to say, I don't wear my ring, or I live in Charlotte. Most of my neighbors don't even know I played hockey. It was great. And I don't, the funny thing, you mentioned Mike Keenan. I was sitting there at the table with Doug Litster, and we had that Fanatic game. I don't know if you.
Yeah.
And Mike was at the table because he was coaching, and this gentleman from Houston, who I think he's the CEO of a big oil company, and brought in this whole group to play in this game. And he said to me at the table, he says, Mike, I read, can you tell me a little bit about your career? I said, well, what do you want to know? And I'm at Mike Keenan's at the table, and there's Adam Graves, and Liddy's looking at me, and he said something like, well, it said that you got hurt. I said, oh, no, that's when Mike Keenan's not here. That's just what I tell people. I was joking. I said, no, I was a guy in and out of the lineup. And then Doug Lister said, yeah, me too. And then Mike Keenan said to him, he says, Liddy, you came in and did great. You played 2 big games for us. You played game 6 and 7 for us. You came in and you did unbelievable. And I never told you that. After sitting out a month, and Lidster looked at him and says, Mike, you sat me out 3.5 months.
It is funny, like you mentioned before, Glenn Healy and Nick Kiprios, when they get going on the subject of Mike Keenan, they're hilarious. Like Healy's got a great sense of humor, and they don't pull any punches a lot of times. They're pretty good. How many you ever played with? Is there one?
Hard. I mentioned earlier, Mark Napier faked an injury for me so I could play my 70th game. And that's talked about. I heard it on podcast. So I played 69 games. That was the year I had all those penalty minutes, 8 goals, 9 assists, plus player, which not a lot of goals on the fourth line, but it was a good year. Yeah. Played a lot. And it was the last game of the year. And Ted Sater, who I really like, said, listen, you're not playing tonight. And I said, damn. So Mike Foligno, Larry Playfair, Mark Napier, they go, what the hell's going on? I said, I'm not dressing. They go, oh, okay, well, you got to rest, kid. You'll be playing. Don't worry. We have Boston. It was already guaranteed we're going to play Boston. And I opened my mouth. I said, damn, I needed this game for a one-way contract. And Larry Playfair said, excuse me? You what? Yeah, I said, I need a one game for he goes, you're playing tonight. And then Mark Napier says, oh, you're playing then. And Mike Foligno. So now I started this whole stir, and I didn't want to. Larry went in and said, when Larry was playing, but they weren't going to play him much in the playoffs, they said. I think they were playing him up at forward. He says, I'm not playing tonight. Dave Anderchuk went in. So they said, he's not playing. It came from up top, who Jerry Meehan's one of my most favorite people in the world, but they just said I wasn't going to play. So wasn't playing. I get out for warm-ups, and Mark Napier rolls around the ice like he got hurt with like 1 second left. Well, they had to put me in because they didn't have any. I was the guy.
Right.
But you have to play one shift to get a game. And Mike Foligno says, if you're not going to play a shift, we're going to push you over the boards.
That's classic.
So, I mean, I look back on those guys, and it could almost, to me, that means more than a championship or anything of what those, because that meant a lot, that one-way contract back then. So, I still, and to conclude, you'll laugh. I was a young kid. So the guy said, Mark Napier really likes his wine. He has this big wine cellar. You need to go buy him a bottle of wine. So I go to like the Harris Teeter or what was it? The Wegmans and Alone. I buy him a $30 bottle of wine. I walk in, the guys are looking, I go, what's this? I go, it's this bottle of wine. They go, the guy got you a one-way contract. You need to buy him a $500 bottle.
I don't think I've ever heard anybody doing that kind of stuff before. That's cool.
In my life, that's what guys said. I saw Grant Ledyard in a
Grant. Yeah.
He said, you're the one story that that they talk about to this day in Buffalo, what Mark Napier did for you. I said,
that is good.
You don't realize it at the time, but you look back later in life and it's like, man, how can you give back?
You said you were a big fan of Ted Sater, because Tom's a huge fan of Ted Sater.
We did not get along at all. It's interesting. I admire you for getting along with him, but there's a lot of, like, we had Clark Gillies on the show too, and he tells a story about how he picked him up in the locker room, threw him across the locker room. Is that true?
Yeah. No, that was, but the thing with Ted, you got to remember though, that they had, like, I look at it differently, like, and it's might think this guy's got to be the biggest kiss ass on the show, but I made that team even the second year, and they had Normie Lacombe in the minors. They had Paul Sear. They just sent down. They had all of these players that were first-round draft picks that were in Rochester, and he kept me. So all I had to do was shut my mouth, play hard, and I wasn't Clark Gillies. I wasn't John Tucker, Dave Anderchuk. I was just the kid from Detroit that needs to shut his mouth and do whatever he can to help the team win. So for me, and he played me a regular shift. So how can I not? I never would, and he didn't treat Clark the way Clark should have been treated. I mean, Clark Gillies was a legend in our eyes, and he got stuck on our line, the fourth line. He didn't play all the time, and it was.
Yeah. I think that like the Ted Saters and the Mike Keenans of the world try to do things to play little mind games that aren't necessary, like be disrespectful to guys. So when Ted first started here in New York, I think he wanted to come in and say, okay, I'm boss here now. So he did things like he sent Mike Rogers and Nick Fotillo to Hartford, the minor league team. He sent Glenn Hanlon to Adirondack, somebody else's minor league team. Pierre LaRouche to Hershey. And those were all popular guys. Those were our friends, our teammates. And to do that to them, it was kind of like you jerk. Like, if you don't want those players on the team, that's fine. Trade them away, but don't treat them like that. So I think that right off the bat said it.
Yeah, but I think I was on the other side of it.
Yeah. Yes, you were. Yep.
So I look at the guys like we had Mikael Anderson, a first-round draft pick. He's in Rochester. So I could have easily been there. There's only one fourth-line left winger. So for me, it was like, man, I was fighting for my life, and he respected that and just left me alone and played me a regular shift. But I could have probably been on the other side of that too. And
well, I was the same way with Herbie Brooks. Herbie Brooks just loved me, like he would play me above other guys. So I'm the same thing with that coach, and so for me, I loved her, but there's other guys that played with her, didn't like him at all because he didn't treat him the same way. So yeah, that's the game though, right? I mean, and that's how it has to be to get a break to play. You have to have somebody that likes you and wants you on that team. So yeah.
And that if they don't like you, you're done.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, especially when you're that like fourth line player, fifth or sixth defenseman. You're the top guys. You're going to play someplace, but get buried. So you look back at anything, any regrets about your life? Like to me, when I look at your life, like how much you got out of your career and what you're doing now, it seems like you really try to max out your life, don't you?
Yeah, I think that I guess when you're younger, I wish I would have appreciated more what some of these players have done. And you appreciate it, you're young, but you don't realize how they went the extra mile. And I wish I would have stopped playing earlier and got on with my life. That's one thing because the transition out of hockey was tough. You had like this identity crisis when you're young, and maybe I should have worked on my career a little bit early, like in those days. But I don't know if I have a lot of regrets. I think I could have played in Europe longer. I ended up being in Europe, and they ended up calling me, Lou Vero, to play for the U.S. team over there.
Oh, really?
Playing on the line, yeah. A couple guys got tested. One guy got tested for Sudafed, which is not a bad thing, but over there, he was tested. Another guy got hurt. So they called me last minute, and I played on a line with Neil Broughton and Joe Mullen. Wow. I played on the U.S. team, and I was playing in Europe in Cologne in the DEL. And yeah. So I look back, and I don't have any like real regrets about that, but maybe probably stayed in Europe a little bit longer.
Yeah, I think you're like me too. You love your life now, so you really don't regret anything that happened in the past or anything you did because that makes you who you are today, right? That's how I tend to look at it.
Yeah, like people say, God, are you jealous about what this guy makes or what this guy does or what this guy has? And I'm not. Someone says, how do you? I don't understand. I said, I don't care.
Yeah,
I'm happy with me. I don't need much. I need a stability and a nice roof over my head, and I have to know that I'm working hard right now and contributing to what I'm doing, but I'm not taking shortcuts. Right. I can't worry about what some guy makes today. I don't care. I don't care. I'm just more.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Part of the Rangers, like I look at it like, wow, they're calling me to come do things. It's a privilege for me to be with you and do all this stuff. And that's how I look at it.
I think about the money today the guys are making. I think my two ex-wives would have got all that money anyway, so I wouldn't have left. Would just have left.
That's true.
Yeah. So next chapter in life, are you happy with what you're doing right now? Just keep on grinding away at this?
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of coaching, which I like, but the goal is I took my book, which I love to talk with you about with your book, and I turned it into a course that my website doesn't show it now. It's hodgepodge now, and they're going to take the program and turn it into a course. And I'm hoping companies would use the audio book. I have an app and do that, but still do the coaching along with more scalable courses so they could buy the course. So when you're done with your book, I love to share with you how this lady turned it into a course. So now they're taking Tom Laidlaw's course. I bet it's True Grit. Is that the name of your book?
Yeah, True Grit Life. Yep.
How did I figure that out?
That's a tough one. Yeah.
Yeah. So True Grit Life, when the time comes, because I would buy your course with your story, your captains, and something like that would be really scalable. Now the company says, yeah, I want to buy 500 of these or 100 of them, and you're still helping everybody out, and it's automated. That's
cool. So where does everybody go to find out this stuff? MikeHartman.com, or where are we at?
Oh, it's there now. It's Hartman.academy, no .com.
Okay, Hartman.academy. So the app, they can find it there as well, or they have the app store to go to?
Yeah, it's there now, but if they're looking today, it's not going to be exactly how it's going to look tomorrow.
Gotcha. So it's still in development. Okay. But that's where they go to follow it. Good. That's excellent. I love what you're doing. I think you and I feel the same way about life and helping other people. And it's a business too. I mean, you got to make money, but at the same time, you're helping people at the same time. So that's fantastic.
Yeah. And I could always say I've always admired you as a person and as a player, even before I met you. I remember just being a very, I didn't look at you as a real tough, like fighting guy. You were tough, but look at it as a very steady defenseman that was hard to play against.
Thank you. That's a real compliment. Coming from you too, because you're a pain in the ass to play against. I'll tell you that. You were. I mean, that's a real compliment.
Did you guys ever fight each other or any big hits between
I think we did, because I was in LA by that time, so we didn't play against each other that often. But I'm sure we were on the ice, because I probably would have had to play against you a lot of times. You're the kind of guy I would play against.
Yeah. The thing I remember, I don't know if you were there. It was an accident. I was playing New York, and I was playing for Ted Sater, my third year, first full season. And I come across the middle, and I'm looking one way, and accidentally Kelly Kissio, we lock legs. Now he's rolling around like I blew his knee out. And they had Chris Nyland, and they had Greshners out there. So he's rolling around like he's hurt. I go and dump the puck in like 3 shifts later, and Petit is going to get it, and I throw him, and he falls in the boards like I could have broke his neck. And I didn't mean to do that to this day. Now all the fans in the Garden are yelling, they're yelling like, they're swearing about it. And then for some reason, Ted Sater puts me out there with Kenny Priestley and Mark Napier. I go, wait a sec. And they send out all the guys like Joe Patterson and Chris Nyland, and they had Lindy Rupp on defense.
Sure.
So right away, they grabbed me, and I'm in the penalty box, and Lindy will never forget this. And I'm in the box, and Nyland says, "You're not going to get out of here alive tonight. I'm going to kill you." And I said, "You don't scare me." I said, "Lindy Rupp can knock your head off." He drops the gloves with Lindy, and Lindy gets cut here. Lindy said, "You ever do that again, I'm going to hurt you."
Oh, that's funny. It kind of reminds me, we were playing Buffalo before you got up there. We were in New York, I remember. And Larry Playfair was on the team, and John Van Boxmeer was on the team as well. And I'm yipping with Van Boxmeer, and Larry's standing right beside me. And Larry was a scary dude. If you didn't know how nice of a guy he was just a scary looking man. And Van Boxmeer and I are going back and forth. He says, "You think you're so tough? Why don't you go fight Playfair?" I'm looking at him, I'm thinking, I don't want to make it look like I'm scared to death, but I'm thinking, I'm not fighting that big monster. Yeah, he's funny, man.
Baumgartner.
Yeah. Oh, man. He's a sick man.
Rick Dudley told us before the game, he said, if anybody fights him, it's a $10,000 fine. And he looked,
really?
I like that. So he gets out there, and he's kind of a funny guy. He skates by our bench. Just because in Buffalo, you have to skate. LA skates by, and he stops. He looks at the bench, and I'm there, and McGuire's there. He goes, "I want one guy tonight, and one guy only. Kevin McGuire, you can't hide." And Magsy didn't say anything. He goes, and he wasn't being funny about it. I guess he fought in the minors before. So I go, oh man, good thing he didn't say my name. So I'm out there, and we're at the face-off, and Baumgartner's, because I hear he's a nice guy, but you don't know much about him. So he's at the face-off, and he says, "Are you ready?" to McGuire. McGuire says no. And he looked at me. He goes, "How about you?" I said, "No." He goes, "Magsy, how about you?" Again. And he looks at me, he goes, "Come, I'm going to ask you one more time." There was they were doing something to the ice. He goes, the puck drops. And he says, "Why does everybody want to be my friend around here?"
That's funny. When he first came up to the team, he would shave like stripes on the side of his head and paint them and all his cussing. And he knew what he was doing. He was trying to show he was as nutty as possible. And he would play like this heavy metal music, and he would crank it all the way up locker room. So now he's a rookie. he's controlling the music, which never happens, right? It's always the veterans guys. And he had it so loud. I think he knew what he was doing. We couldn't sit in the locker room. So we go look at him. He's sitting in the locker room all by himself, listening to this music before the game. Nobody's going to say anything to him because we just thought this guy's a nutcase. He ended up being a really intelligent guy, though, right?
Oh, he's a smart guy, but because it was funny during the lockout, I thought it was a joke. He goes, Mike, this is Ken Baumgartner. I go, Ken? Like, I thought it's one of the guys. He goes, yeah, I just want to tell you that Players Association decided to give us X amount of dollars a month, and I'm on the committee. I said, oh, okay, thanks, Ken. Yeah, I didn't even know. Then I heard he's a pretty bright guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's doing some financial planning or something like that now. Yeah.
Whoa.
Did you ever get initiated?
I did in Buffalo.
Oh.
I did. And me and my big mouth, like, if you say if I ever did anything. So we had Kenny Priestley, who, and myself, we were the youngest guys. On that team, we had Phil Russell playing defense. We had a very old team. Right. Clark Gillies, Gilbert Perot.
Was he still there? Wow.
Yeah. So we had a team meal in Pittsburgh at the Steel Building, like 56 floors up, and Kenny and I had to pay. He says, well, we were the only two rookies. We had to pay. And I said, oh, I don't care. I'll pay. Little did I know, that was a lot of money. And the guy said, well, you have to pay us back. I couldn't put that on my credit card. That was my first year. I couldn't. Guys were drinking and eating steak.
Sure.
And I said, oh, this is the initiation. He goes, oh, no. He goes, when we get back on Monday, we're going to shave one of the two of you, but we have to pick out of a hat. Well, I said, so Felino's got the hat, because back then they did that. I go, oh, and Kenny's girlfriend was coming. We were already there, like 10 games. Right. They pick out of the hat and they pick Kenny. He goes, Kenny, Monday's your day, and then Hardy, you're probably the following week when we have off Monday. He couldn't. His face turned red. I said, me trying to be like this new. I said, no one's touching Kenny. I said, come to me first. And Flynn, oh, what a good guy. Oh, was that stupid?
That was one of the most stupid things we ever did as hockey players, initiation too. That served no purpose, didn't help the team at all. Yeah.
You know what? That stuff, you look back and
there's just no point to it whatsoever. It was just a tradition that got handed down, and we all did it and all thought we were supposed to do it. And I look back now and it's almost like embarrassing that we participate in that stuff. But
yeah. Did you like LA, playing in LA?
I did. You know what? I love New York. So when I first got traded, I was a little bit bitter actually, because, I've been with the Rangers my whole career as a captain, assistant captain, and won player awards, all this stuff. So I felt like that was my team. And then I tell us all the time, my first, we rented a home with a pool and a hot tub in the backyard. And it was Christmas Eve. I'm sitting out in the hot tub having a cocktail. I'm thinking to myself, this isn't too bad at all. And then, of course, when Wayne got traded there, it became the place to be, really. So it was a good, I really fit in there well. I had a role. Do you remember Timmy Waters?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Timmy and I were partners, and especially when Robbie Fatorik and Brian Maxwell were coaching us, they just loved us. They thought so we had times where we had 7 defensemen dressed, and Timmy and Tom, we would go out every other shift. And I'll never forget Marty McSorley was one of the defensemen, and he was hot. And we couldn't. If they're going to have us go on the ice, you go on the ice. You don't say no, I'm not going on the ice. It's not fair to the rest of the guys. So
we went to Blake's house in Manhattan Beach, before the game.
Yeah.
Few of us went to, he had a little house somewhere in Manhattan Beach. Yeah. I guess he tore that down and built a mansion over there.
Is that had the hot tub in there? That house, didn't it? Yes. There's some stories about that house. Yeah. So you never really wanted to stay in the game, coaching or anything like that?
Well, that's why I was in Charlotte. I had an offer to be a coach in Quad Cities, and I was going through a divorce, and I just didn't want to be away from my kids. And then I think Tampa Bay, Jay Feaster asked me if I was John, because I like John Tortorella. See, there's another guy people like. Yeah, I think he's an amazing guy. Tortorella.
I agree with you too. Yeah, it depends what kind of player you are, right? Like a guy like you or myself would get along great with Tortorella. Yeah.
Yeah, I had him in Buffalo as an assistant coach. Oh. They were thinking about they were an independent team, and they were going to New Haven, and they were trying to solidify an American League spot. They were breaking up their team back in 2000. What year did they win the Cup? It was just before that.
Yeah.
So anyways, he called me, says, do you have any interest in helping out in New Haven? And I just said, no, I didn't want to leave. I don't know. I just didn't want to.
That's the thing about coaching. You're always moving all over the place. Yeah.
So Mike, do you still get on the ice? Are you still playing these days?
Yeah, I get on the ice. I play pickup hockey here in Charlotte, and it's great. A lot of us are friends. In fact, we have a goalie that's he's 75 years old, and he's a great guy. His name is Steve. He's from Detroit, and I score on him. He thinks I'm great. He goes, man, you played the NHL. He's 75, but I get this. Well, he's like maybe 72. He's a great guy, and it's fun. So I get out there, and I have a lot of fun. There's a lot of new people moving to Charlotte. It's like the place to be. They're all moving south, right to Charlotte in Florida. And I get on the ice, and this kid, I'm in the corner, and he kind of bumps into me kind of hard. And I said, what are you doing? He says, hey, play the effing game. I said, well, don't talk to me like that. I said, let's just have fun. He goes, play the game, buddy, or get off the ice. So I said, okay. I said, I'll put up with it. And then I did something stupid, and he had the puck, and I slashed him to break his stick, not to hit him in the wrist, and I slashed his stick down, and he came and pushed me really hard. Now, he was probably 5'11", 140, 150. Skinny guy with glasses. Now, in my day, I'm used to, Shane Churla, Jay Miller, John Kordick, and now I have this skinny kid. So I said, you don't want to do this. Plus, I don't want to do it because I don't want to get in trouble. You look like a fool. I'm the guy that's going to look like the doing this thing. So I get off the ice, and as I'm skating on, he calls my name by the bench. He goes, hey. I go, is this guy challenging me? What is he doing? He goes, no, I just want to apologize. Somebody told me who you were and you fought. You would have killed me. I'm sorry. I said, hey, you would have to hit me over the head before I would get mad. And then, make it long story short, a couple days later, he's out there again, but we're sitting in the dressing room, and he's getting dressed. And he's really lean. I'm not trying like this guy. All right, so look at guys come in like, the 6'5", and I see this guy in, and I go, hey, how are you? He goes, wow, I'm doing good. I got today off of work. It's Wednesday. I said, oh, what do you do? He goes, well, I'm a pediatrician. So I'm thinking to myself, oh my God. These monsters back in the day, and now I'm playing goals on a 73-year-old guy, and then pediatricians are coming in.
Fighting pediatricians. That's great.
Came home, I told my girlfriend, I think it's time to play pickleball full time.
Oh, there you go, pickleball. Well, listen, great having you on the show, and I really mean this. I had a ton of respect for you before I met you, the way you played the game, and I really do mean it. I look back at your career, and you're one of those guys that, and it's total compliment that you got a lot out of your life, a lot out of your career. You really battled hard, and you and I've got to be friends, and I think we have a lot of the same beliefs. So glad you're in my life.
Well, likewise, I always enjoy seeing you, and I brag to everybody when you were on that Survivor.
Oh yeah,
yeah, and it's just you're an inspiration to many. So thank you.
All right, brother. Great to have you on the show.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
thanks, Mike.
Yeah, take care, guys.
So that was cool, Mike Hartman, and I didn't say this on the air, but I actually played against him in men's league a couple years ago.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was going half speed, and we didn't know who he was. And afterwards, we talked to him, and one of the guys I was playing with said, "You're pretty good. Did you play in college?" And he's like, "Well, I played for the Rangers '94 Cup." It was a pretty neat flex on us,
Well, he was a good role player too. He was really important to the Rangers on that team, those Black Aces, and they made a lot of decisions based on those guys fitting into certain roles, and he fit into his role well. Now he's a good guy, and again, another guy I really admire after the game because he hasn't just sat around and done nothing. He's really had a second career, so good man.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Grasshoppers, thank you for listening. We had a fantastic show. We'll see you next time.